Well, this looks to be the news that shattered the video game industry. PlayStation says by 2028, they are not going to be making any more physical discs and physical games. Yes, you heard that right. They're never going to make games like this that you can collect, that you can actually pass ownership onto someone else. So you're going to have to buy the games at the Sony store, and they'll be digital only. That's the way they're going to make games from now on. And obviously, this has sent a lot of people in a bit of an uproar, and I can't blame them because I like to collect video games. It's one of my favorite things to actually do, and it's been something that's been with me for a long time. Video games, especially PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 is such a nostalgic console for me. And just the amount of gameplay and hours I put into PlayStation 2 when I was a teenager, when I was like 12, 13, 14 is unimaginable. Seriously, I loved this console. And honestly, collecting them I feel like is part of the hobby. And when Sony does things like this, they're really kind of destroying the ecosystem, to be honest, because collecting video games I feel like is just as important as actually playing them, but maybe they actually think that's not true. And if that is the case, I feel like they're going to be waking up to a rude awakening, because there's a lot of people up in arms about this, and it could actually change the direction moving forward. Or maybe they're going to be so daft and so deaf that they aren't going to hear the calls from the collectors and gamers out there. And they're just going to stick to it, which honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I feel like Sony is pretty deaf, and they really are tone deaf, and they don't like collectors like me. Well, let's discuss it. Now, I know I actually might be a bit late to this news, and for that, my apologies. I had a few other videos that I had to do, and this news was something that I wanted to kind of maybe fester a little longer so I can formulate a little bit of a better opinion. And honestly, it's so funny to see that they released this pretty much right off of the backlash of people saying that they were upset that Grand Theft Auto is going to be digital only, and the cases themselves would literally have a code that you would use to download it. So a lot of collectors were obviously up in arms about this. And instead of addressing that, they just doubled down and said, well, actually, you know what, guys? You're upset about that? Well, who cares? Because all games in a few years are going to be all digital. We're not going to do any physical games at all. So if you guys are looking to collect this game and pass ownership, too bad. You will own nothing and you will be happy, essentially is what Sony came out and said. And the sad reality of this is, I feel like this is not just a direction Sony's going. I feel like Nintendo will eventually go this way as well. Although I think Nintendo understands collectors a little better than Sony might. But I think that all video game publishers and companies are probably going to move in this direction. Now, you look at PC gaming, you know, a lot of people who grew up playing mostly on a PC, they don't really see as much of an issue as maybe console gamers would for this. You know, there's platforms like Steam, right? And you could just download a lot of games on Steam, and you download the games, and you could say, well, you don't really own it, but at least you got it on your PC, and they couldn't remove it from the PC. They might be able to remove it from the store, but at least you had a way of storing it on your PC. I feel like with the Sony PlayStation, that's going to be a little more difficult for people who want to have ownership of their games for a long time. Steam is interesting because they always had these Steam summer sales, and, you know, it's just so weird because when prices are artificially inflated with no secondary market putting pressures on the price, you know, the only other option people would have is to pirate it, right? And there was still a lot of people who pirated games as well as movies and stuff. But I feel like that is still the direction they're going to go moving forward. I feel like there isn't going to be an avenue for the secondary market at this point. So if you're someone who buys video games as well to resell, this is going to be difficult because eventually a lot of the games that we collect, let's be honest, like I love PlayStation 1, PS2, GameCube, Nintendo DS, stuff like that. Look at the way people look at right now, like my generation, look at the way we look at in television or ColecoVision, right? Look, the original Atari. Do we really find it that desirable anymore? Not really. Eventually people are going to look at the games that we like right now in that same light. And newer generations are probably going to be okay with digital games, which is shocking to my generation. And I still think it's horrible because I like the idea of passing ownership of my games to my son when he gets older and when he can actually appreciate these games. And these are his games to play or sell if he wants to in the future, right? It would be like part of his inheritance. But when it comes to digital games, there is no way of passing that ownership onto someone else. And I think that's the biggest slap in the face. And there's tons of people. You can go on YouTube. You can find videos on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook as well of people up in arms about this because it feels like all of their suspicions are basically true, right? That's really what this comes down to. And that's why this is so annoying and frustrating because people were saying for a long time that the video game industry, they're really trying to just go digital. You know, that's what they're trying to do right now. And it's been like this since PS4, PS5, Xbox One. The last consoles, the last generation of consoles really started to do a push for digital games. And just look at how little physical games actually get released now. It's insane compared to like PlayStation 2, which had the largest library of physical games ever. And then you look at how many games that there are for PS5, like physical games. It's abysmal. And now we kind of know why. At least now we have some clarity as collectors and gamers, right? That this was the direction moving forward. They were always going to put more games on the PlayStation Store than they were going to actually make in physical copies. And now it's just going to be the PlayStation Store. That's going to be it. You're not even going to have a physical case in the future. At least with Grand Theft Auto, you know, as much as people are pissed off about that, at least there's going to be something inside the case. It's just at least you can display the case or something like that, but that's not very satisfying. And I would argue gaming, just from a collecting standpoint, it kind of lost a bit of satisfaction with like Nintendo Switch, in my opinion. It's just the thin cartridges, like the boxes and the tiny cartridges. It felt kind of weird. It was just like I'm getting a tiny SD card, like a micro SD card, and that was my game in this box. But I guess that's still something, right? That's better than nothing if you're a collector. But it didn't have that hefty feel of like a DS game, which I love, by the way. I love DS games. It's probably my favorite handheld console from Nintendo, but PlayStation pretty much gave up on that after PS Vita. And it looks like they're not just giving up on handheld consoles, they're giving up on physical games altogether. That seems to be the future, and this is what they've announced, 2028. So we have a few more years left of game collecting and hunting for newer games until it all goes away. You leave your thoughts about this video down below in the comment section, guys. Are you upset by this news? I'm sure you probably are, like me, if you even clicked on this video. It's a sad day for collectors, and it's a sad day for video game owners. See you in the next one.